I guess what went into it, the hire from Mike, and can you kind of take us through when he reached out to you and how that process went?
Yeah, it was, organic process, obviously. Things happen fast in this business, and I was obviously very excited when, Coach had called me and having the opportunity to come down and visit, and certainly blessed with the opportunity.
Brian, Jeff Hathorn from KDK Radio.
How we doing, Jeff?
How are you?
Good.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
What do you take from your time from Minnesota that you kind of bring since the last time you worked with Mike?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, 2018, obviously, Coach went off to Dallas, had great success, and then I had a couple more stops than he had after that. But, Minnesota was a great experience for me. It's a great organization, and, it was a fun time. Kevin and I had worked together two other times, so it was fun to get back with him and see him grow that program up there.
Hey Brian, Mike Pursuta from DVE.
How you doing?
Good. Is there something they know in Minnesota about quarterback play, and did you leave smarter than when you got there, or is there a secret sauce?
Well, I think you got to have good players. It helps when you got Justin Jefferson, but no, I think it's like with everyone. You're just trying to develop a scheme and that is quarterback friendly. And you'll hear Coach McCarthy say this all the time, and this is Coach's philosophy. Everything goes through the quarterback, and like it will here, and like it has when through Coach McCarthy's entire time of coaching, and that's really all that it is. And you try to get concepts that they're comfortable with, and that's Coach McCarthy will say it, if the quarterback's not comfortable with something, then we're not going to do it, because it doesn't matter what the plays are. It's about the training of the quarterback and the comfort level.
Ryan, Chris Halleck with DK Pittsburgh Sports. We've heard from Mike and his perspective. I want to get yours on the dynamic relationship between you and Mike, with him being the play caller. Obviously, offensive coordinators oftentimes are the play caller, but can you just go into that dynamic, how it's going to work between you two throughout the week and then on Sunday?
Sure. Obviously Mike will call the plays, and then, he'll be involved in the meetings as much as he can. And, there's not something that we don't do as an offense that, Mike hasn't, got in front of him at some point. We'll obviously forge on, make decisions, and, he'll be aware of the decisions we made. And if they're decisions that he's not comfortable with, or he sees a different way, we'll obviously work together to get the best results. And that's really what you want on any offensive staff.
Right, and you mentioned quarterback-friendly scheme and everything, starting with the quarterback's got to be comfortable with it. With that in mind, how significant is it to have your quarterback here for the spring OTAs, especially with Aaron still not really sure what he's going to do?
Yeah, I think, with all our players, anytime you get an opportunity to get all the positions out there working together, you feel good about that. I think that's important for everyone. And, obviously the quarterbacks, receivers, the perimeter, I mean, that all plays into it, just like the line. The line's got to work with their combination blocks, their line calls, their communication. So it's for all the players.
Brian, Chris Carter, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You have a big background as being a tight ends coach on top of what you've done in your history. What excites you about this tight ends room and the uniqueness with that Pat?
Yeah, no, they're a great group. They can do both. I think in this league, you have to have the ability to run block and certainly catch the ball. And I know, certainly Pat's had a lot of success doing that here. And Darnell, Darnell coming out of Georgia, he was an athletic, I remember everybody remembers the play when he hurdled the guy on the sideline. So he's athletic. You saw him in the red zone last year. They did a great job. Aaron trusted him to go up and get the ball. I think where the league's at, the more flexible and more job responsibilities those tight ends can have, whether they're in pass protection as the sixth protector in your scat in the back out, or whether they're releasing on a route in the passing game or the play passes. that gives you the flexibility for the defense. So you're not just, oh, when this guy's in, they're doing that. And I think we're blessed with those two, with those opportunities.
Brian, Paul Marchand with College Pro, kind of piggybacking on what Chris said in terms of the tight end. What do you think, when you first got hired, you went over the roster, I mean, what are you most excited about, maybe as an offensive unit, running backs, receiver, tight end, that you're like, wow, we're really gifted?
Honestly, you know, from afar, you know, you'd get crossover tape and whatnot, and then having a chance to watch the tape. I'm excited about everybody. You know, there's talent. You know, the perimeter, you know, the tight ends, the line, the runners. You know, there's been a lot of success. You know, we got Will as a young quarterback to develop. I mean, I'm just excited about the whole offense. And you know, once we get on the grass, and you know, Monday we'll start, you know, at a low volume, just to see what the guys can do, and then ultimately we'll try to put them in the best position as we build the offense and move forward where they can succeed. But I'm excited about the group.
Brian, Chris Adamski with German Review. There's been stories from people that work with you in the past about your work ethic and your, you know, you might come in early, that type of thing, sleep places at the office or whatever. Is that just part of your personality? Is that competitiveness out of you? What kind of like pushes you to spend so much time and want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I'm no different than all the coaches. Like, honestly, like, we're all competitive. We all want to win. We understand the nature of the business. We understand we're measured on results. You know, everybody, you just want to be prepared, and whatever you got to do to be prepared. But I don't think I do anything different than other coaches. So, you know, we're all just trying to get better, and more importantly, when you do that, you help the players get better, and that's really what our objective is.
Brian Benz from Trib Live. Do you have a sense yet in your time since you got here about what you might have on the left side of your line, or do you have a sense yet of how much you might need to add?
Yeah, I mean, like with all the positions, we got to get the best five out there. Certainly, you know, the right side, they played together a lot last year. But, you know, with Broderick, you know, we'll get him back and healthy when he can get out there and start rolling. He's been doing a great job, been in the meetings, and, you know, going through with his injury. But we'll see. You know, I mean, obviously Spencer's played a bunch of football. Like, so there's, you know, we have guys that have played football. So we'll just see where that thing goes as we progress through. And ultimately, training camp is when a lot of those things will take shape.
Brian, Rich Walsh from CBS KDK Pittsburgh. How much input do you have this week, and you know, what's the draft process like for you?
Yeah, you know, we've been going pretty hard on the offense. You know, we've been in draft meetings with Omar and his group, and you know, they do a great job in personnel, and they have done a phenomenal job of, you know, getting us the stuff we need to be, and then obviously we'll have film, we'll evaluate the tape. We meet as an offense with the scouts and with coach, and everybody just kind of, you know, gives their opinion on players, and then, you know, ultimately they'll set the draft board, and you know, but I feel like we're in a really good place, and it was, our scouting department made it really easy for us.
Hey Brian, Alan Saunders from Pittsburgh Sports Now. Been working with Kevin, who kind of comes from the McVay, Shanahan side of things. Obviously, Mike is an old school West Coast offense guy. How are those schemes different, and how do you expect what you guys do this year to be blended into?
Yeah, it's really all the same. You know, I worked with Kyle Shanahan in Cleveland, and then obviously with Kevin. So it's all the West Coast offense. It's all the origin of the West Coast offense. It's all about the quarterback. It's all about making the quarterback successful. Everybody's just had their little different spin on it. You know, Sean was doing it out of 11 personnel. Kyle's still doing it out of 21 personnel. In Minnesota, we were doing it out of 21, 12, 11. But it's, the concepts are the concepts. They may have changed the names, but it's, you know, a progression-based offense. You know, it's making it, you know, comfortable for the quarterback. It's having alerts, cans, kills, whatever, to try to get a premier play. But it's all the same, and you know, the origin's the same, but everybody's just taking their spin off of it, and certainly everybody's been successful. I think they all got Super Bowls, so they all have done a pretty good job with it.
Brian, what's your guys' spin?
our spin on offense, we will figure that as we go through OTAs, but it is going to be based around the quarterback. It is going to be based around what our players do well. It's going to be based around the personnel groupings that we can use to exploit the defense, and that's the fortunate part to go along with the tight ends, whether we're going to be an 11 personnel team, a 12 personnel team, 13. Every game's different, every week's different. But the good thing is concept teaching and the way the plays will be run, we can do them out of all the groupings. So that's what you want to be, is multiple. You want to have a core concept of plays that you can run really well and plays that the quarterback feels comfortable in. And then you just change up what it looks like to the defense.
Brian, Kevin Cameron, Pittsburgh's DSEN Radio. What do you see Michael Pittman bring into this group?
Yeah, obviously we're real excited about Pitt, just like we are with all our receivers. I think he'll be a great complement for DK, certainly a great complement for the tight ends and the runners, open up holes. Just gives us a guy that, another big body guy that has got really good hands and, has done a really good job of moving the chains in this league.
Brian, Nick Faribaugh from Penn Live. Obviously, you talk about kind of the Shanahan tree. The run schemes have kind of changed. You started wide zone, now it's more gap stuff. You see McVay doing it out of 13. You see Shanahan doing it out of 21. How have you kind of learned, to mold maybe what McCarthy was doing back in the day when you were in Green Bay with kind of that modernized scheme and how it's evolved over the last, say, 5 to so years just in those schematics?
Yeah, I think just, the runs, you're just trying to complement in the simplistic way the runs and the passes as much as you can on first, second down. The more sameness and likeness you can have for the defense, you see a guy that's, taking the run away by fitting this gap. Now you're just trying to exploit and maybe throw over him, right? You're always trying to have the run-pass conflict, right? So the gap they got to fit in the run game, you can exploit their coverage responsibility on the second level.
Two more, guys. Two more.
Brian, what are your early impressions of Will Howard?
I've really enjoyed Will. He's got a great personality. He's been impressive in the quarterback room. Obviously, we haven't gone out on the grass with him, but his ability to communicate, articulate, pick up the scheme, like with all the guys in Mace, it's been really impressive.
Brian, you've worked with Frank here before.
Mm-hmm.
What have you guys learned from each other? I mean, it's kind of crazy. You guys worked with Pitt, and now you're
sure
together in kind of different positions.
Yeah, Frank, he's another West Coast guy, obviously, so I think philosophy of football, we have like we all do, we all come from the same cut in the philosophy of football, and that certainly helps when you're looking at the game and then kicking ideas around everybody's, it's just a really good environment to be able to grow the offense and, put our spin on it.
Right, Mark Paul, McAfee Show, correspondent. You have physical wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. How important is this staff to bring a physical style of play on offense?
Yeah, I think when you look at this great organization and the history and the 6 Lombardis and, what the Rooney family has built, that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Physical, tough, explosive style of football. And, Coach will say it, when you get into December and playoff football, you got to be able to run the football. So that's something that has been in this city and been in this DNA, and that's something that I believe in. You got to be a tough physical team. You got to be able to run it when they know you're going to run it, and we'll certainly strive to continue that.
Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You run the 34 defense like
Mm-hmm.
your predecessors here. How does your defense differ from what Mike Tomlin, Dick LeBeau, and Terrell Austin did?
Well, those guys won a lot of games and play a lot of good defense. I hope I could. I'm not quite at that level in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's more when you're talking about 34 defense, you're talking about how the roster is put together, and it gives you a lot of flexibility when you're bringing players in that fit that mold in terms of. It helps you with special teams. It's going to help you in the passing situations, the more outside linebackers you have, and it helps you on the flexibility of the scheme. And so you guys all know this. We play more nickel deep. There's going to be more 5 DBs out there than there's going to be 4 DBs. But once you start going into a 3-4 roster, you can start to think of the 4-2-5 nickel defense more as 2-4-5, and it gives you flexibility. That's where you get all the fire zones and all the different things that come up through that. But it's really about the flexibility of the roster, both schematically, defensively, special teams, and then more pass rushers. That's how I see it.
That's Mike Pursuta from DVE. Mike McCarthy's an offensive guy. Is this your defense? Are you making the calls? Are you?
Yeah, yes, sir. As far as I know, yes, sir. But it's all. Again, this is my 8th year, I believe, being a defensive coordinator. You want to have it be in the vision of what the coach has for the team, the head coach. I think that's important. But yes, I'm calling the play. I'm calling the defenses and putting together the scheme, and we're doing it really to fit the players that are here. And like I said before, just trying to find a way to earn my way in this tradition. You know, I don't have to come up with any gimmicks here at Pittsburgh. Doesn't have to be any slogans. It's steel curtain. I told the players when I first met with them, we're trying to earn our position in that tradition in 2026, and that's why I'm so excited to be here.
Coach Tim Benz from Triple Live, amplifying your point about the 2-4-5. In your time coaching the 3-4, how have you found the players who are the 2 had to change?
I mean, you take a look at my time at New England, my time at the Giants, my time, and then over the history here with Pittsburgh. You're going to notice they have big men on the roster. I mean, that's the most important part in terms of. So again, when you start to talk about the 3-4 and how it plays, the big guys on the roster. You know, you have people like Cam, you have KB, you have Black, you have Harmon. These are big human beings. That's where you find those guys right there, and I think that Pittsburgh's been really disciplined. That's a credit to Omar and Mr. Rooney and the organization. They've been really disciplined in terms of that profile, and that served them well.
Patrick, Chris Alec with DK Pittsburgh Sports. The inside linebacker position, how has that evolved to where it is in 2026? Because it used to be like bigger guys who just be able to run around and just rack up tackles. Then they need to be athletic. Now the league's starting to run the football a little bit more. And how can your scheme make their job the easiest it could possibly be to do their job?
So I'll start with the first one. The position, the size of the player definitely has changed, I think. I remember when I first got in the league, I was learning from Pepper Johnson, and Pepper played for the Giants in Cleveland and the Jets. I mean, he's a big man. He was an inside linebacker. Then at New England, I had Jamie Collins, Dante Hightower, Gerard Mayo. These guys were all big. I mean, if they walked in here now, you would think they were defensive ends. That's how big they were. So some teams have those guys, but like really, I think most of the kids when they're growing up, they want to be edge rushers now. They're not wanting to play linebacker. I think that's what's happening. I don't know. So are the guys a little bit smaller? I think so, but the game is more lateral now too, and they're running the ball absolutely. But what we look for in the profile, the willingness to come downhill. Can they get their pads underneath people? Can they get to their hands? So they could do that. I mean, we'll be in good shape. We'll be fine. So like what we have here, I mean, I'm really excited about our linebacker core. You got a lot of athleticism, a lot of speed, a lot of willingness to get downhill and take on blockers, and they could get the ball carrier down. Now, schematically, it kind of ties together. We have big human beings up front, so they require most of the time more than one blocker. That helps us out as well.
Patrick, Chris Adamski, Tribune Review. Jalen Ramsey, is he a safety now for sure? Do you see that in the secondary in general? Do you like that idea of being a chess piece and they can play back, box, outside?
So definitely a chess piece. You're asking me a question now in April, and this league is so competitive. He's a good football player. I'll give you that. He's a good football player, and he happens to be a defensive back. The thing I'll tell you, Jalen does a lot of things well. In terms of, there's speed, there's athleticism. I'm hearing about his leadership ability. He actually gave me a suggestion for where to get my hair done when I got to Pittsburgh. That helped me out. I was happy about that. I'm really excited to be around him. And the thing that stood out to me in the short time I spoke to him is his energy. And so, but what you're going to find with our group, the goal is to be as multiple as possible in terms of having multiple roles. So defensive back, whether you be a safety, corner, wherever it may be, they'll find out on Sundays. That's really, that's where they're going to find out.
Patrick, I was talking to Chris Carter, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Mhm.
When I was talking to people who covered you in the past, they spoke boldly about how you've been very good at adjusting from place to place to the strengths of what a team brings. The Steelers' defense, especially recently, we talk about the big guys up front, the edge rushers. What are the ideas that you immediately bring to the table, like say, hey, like you guys have done this well, but this is where my fingerprints can be?
So what I'll do is I'll narrow down what we're going to do schematically on early down. I'm not big in having a lot of different schemes for early down, and we'll find ways to be multiple within it. But I try to keep it in 5 buckets from there. Then what I tell them is, then we're going to get really good at this, knock out the run game, prevent shots on early down passing game, and then we'll get to second and long and third down. And that's when we get to the fun stuff. The fun stuff, that's where the imagination goes wild. And the funny thing, I tell them all the time, you guys might forget something we installed on day 1 that had to deal with early down base defense. But if we come up with some funky third down blitz package or whatever, that you might get a sack, they ain't gonna forget that. So, joking with them about that. So that's my approach in terms of, those passing downs. They have a little fun with it in terms of that schematically, but really not gonna try to venture too far off from what this city, what you guys have been known for. Again, I keep talking about earning our place in that tradition. We got to do a good job of, playing hard-nosed physical football. We have to have an intimidating play style. And that, if I were to be honest with you guys, the first 2 weeks, the meetings I've had with the players is more about how we're going to play. And then the vision I have as the coordinator of how we're going to play, how we're going to get this stuff done before we even get into a call, if that makes sense.
Patrick, speaking of fun stuff, did you freelance Crosby to a degree, and is there anybody here that might be able to handle such a responsibility?
Max is such a good player. I mean, Max is a great player, and it's my job when I was there is to free him up. So, is it freelance? No, because when you talk to Max, he's one of the smartest football players I've been around. But now there are things built in schematically. Was he backed up by force? And I'm like, this is a chance for you to go. Like in the run game. So if I have somebody directly behind you, cut you loose here, and then communicate that with the rest of the guys. That stuff is built in, but that's football. That's not unique to me or to Max. And there are definitely guys here that there's some really good football players here. I'll put it that way. And it's our job collectively to find ways to let them be themselves and make some plays. So there's a little give and take on that at times. But in order for us to defend all that grass behind us, because we're not calling plays, we're deciding how we're going to play that situation. And for that given play, we have to be coordinated. We do have to be coordinated.
Patrick Faribault, Penn Live. You have 2 guys, Jamel Dean and Joe Porter Jr., that are known for being good press corners. How much does that help you flexibility-wise and schematically? And how big for you is physicality at cornerback just for the scheme and where the league is?
You guys know this better than I do, but first it starts with your division. So if you're talking about a division where teams that run the ball, that have big receivers, it's good business for our division. Whether you're talking about Cincinnati, you're talking about Baltimore, whether you're talking about Cleveland, in terms of whether I'm talking about the receivers, the run game, that's what our division is all about. So I think it's good business. And then anytime you could have, however you want to say it, it's a highway speed league. So if you got length, you got speed, and then the fact that there's some physicality to it, that's always going to be good for us, because no matter what we talk about, like the spread run game, the spread passing game, when it gets down to January and in this division every week, it comes down to the physicality of the game. And you have to establish that. So when you have corners that could tackle, that's a bonus. That's a bonus.
Patrick, Jeff Hatham with KDK Radio, 93.7 The Fan. Specifically, what is it? How do you look at the opportunity to coach TJ? And do you see 3 outside? They experimented with that. Do you see that as an option with this?
You guys trying to? It's April. Trust me. Again, we got some stuff cooking, but okay, we got some stuff cooking. TJ, the opportunity to coach him, privilege, along with the other guys too. I don't want to single him out, but you asked about him. but like, I mean, productive, defensive MVP caliber statistics every year. And just like so far, all my interaction with him has been great, serious about football, wants to get better, and, puts the team first. So I'm really, really excited. He's one of the more disciplined, elite rushers I've seen over my time in the league. So I've been in the league, I think, almost since '09. I mean, the discipline he has on the edge and the intelligence and how he plays on the edge, and then what we're going to bring to it in terms of some of the schematic stuff, because they had such a good foundation here. Because, again, Coach Tomlin, TA, like Denzel, I mean, I knew all these guys. And, one of my best football days of my life was meeting with Coach Tomlin for 8 hours and talking football. So there's a foundation established here, and he's part of that. And, we're all trying to earn our place in it this year. So,
Patrick, can I provide some Pittsburgh sports now?
Yep.
I don't think there are a lot of NFL defensive coordinators with a sociology degree from Yale. How has that educational background helped your professional career?
God, I don't know. Do I have enough time to answer this? The biggest, okay, you want me to talk about me? Okay, Yale. How did Yale get me to this point? If you were around my circle of friends and my roommates, I'm talking about from 18 to 22, you couldn't, in terms of how quick you had to be, whether you were joking around or you were having a real discussion, the terms of how they raised the level of where you had to be, like with just your conversation, with your jokes and everything in a room. I mean, I went to school, and some of my best friends, they're still my best friends to this day. I mean, Terrence Jones, he's a judge in California. Ugo Ude, he's an executive at a big-time firm in New York. These men, they really shaped me. These are my brothers. My roommate, Arian Cobham, I mean, the end of sophomore year, he was a poli-sci major. He was like, I might want to do computer science. I mean, and he became a lawyer and all that stuff, and then he just went into computer. I mean, true, like, smart people, witty people, sharp people that were tough on me. And I think that's really what I learned from those guys. And also my homegirls that I went to school with. I mean, that's what I got from Yale. Not necessarily the Yale brand, it's the people I met there that came from different circumstances. And it just, I love, man. I have 25th reunions this year. Like, I'm having a moment right now. Defensive coordinator for the Steelers. I'm thinking about these people. Kobe Sanders. Wow. Okay. Next question, man. You didn't put that on the sheet. I did not. Damn.
Kevin Cameron, ESPN Radio. How do you feel about this current quarterback group?
I mean, we got a lot of options. I mean, a lot of options, a lot of football they've played. First, we talked about the size out there and the speed, the combination, and the physicality. Again, when we talk about this run game in the league, the ball's trying to bounce out to the corner. That's the number one play everybody's doing. Block them all up, block all the big guys, bounce out the corner. We got two corners right now that on tape, they've shown they'll tackle that. So that's a positive right there. Then you get to the passing game, the matchup of the size and the speed, the length in our division, that's a good thing. And then you go on the inside, whether it's Brandon and how we're going to use Jalen and these different guys in there on the inside, having foot quickness to stay with the slots, having the ability to, having some savviness. You're talking about, even at the safety spot, we got some guys that are real savvy football players. That's what I said. I'm fortunate. Just based off the tape and my interaction with real fortunate. We got some savvy dudes that I think it's going to bring to life what's going on in his brain right now, and with the coaches. So I'm really encouraged by it.
Brian Dadko from the Post-Gazette. First, I just wanted to ask you, when did you have your 8-hour sit-down with Tomlin?
Oh, man. I don't want to get into that, but it was, just put it this way. It was, to this day, it's art. I mean, aside from the day we won the Super Bowl, might have been one of my best football moments. It was just straight ball, and I mean, he's been good to me over the years, and that was a real treat. It was a real football treat.
But then I just want to ask you, when we had Jamel Dean in here a month ago at one time, he said you guys maybe didn't get off on the best foot 7 years ago. Did you grill him pretty hard?
I don't know. That's young. I'm old. The gray's in now. I mean, I'm 47. I don't know. I mean, I don't remember it like that, but he came up afterwards. He's like, I remember you. I said, oh, my fault, Dean. I said, but I said, it might have been one of my moves that day. I don't know. My back used to go out all the time back then. I might have had a bad back day. So
You've been a defensive coordinator. It's your 7th year being a DP.
I think it's 8 though. Is it 7?
My bad.
I hope so. That makes me feel younger, but I was trying to do the math earlier.
You've been a DC for a while. You came up in your background being D-line, linebackers. How involved were you in the picking of Jason and Joe to work with the secondary, and how do they complement you well as DB specialists that can help you with that?
So I met those men in Green Bay. We were there for a year together. Then when I got the Raiders job, Simo was the first person I wanted to hire. And then Simo left and went to Washington. And you talk about 2 years away from him, I miss him. And so, like, to me, Jason Simmons, this is how I would describe him. He's one of the most, he's one of the smartest men on the field, off the field that I know. I would say he is a real principled human being. He's a pleasure to be around. Joe calls him Good-O because he's such a good person. He's really like one of the best people I've ever met in my life. And he's really smart and understands the secondary. He understands how it ties together with the front. That's the benefit for me of him having a clear understanding of how it all ties together. And, one day he's going to be a great coordinator in this league, and he's a leader of men, and it's real important for that. And then Joe, I knew Joe from the Green Bay days, and then Joe and Simo have a relationship, and Joe's one of the more intelligent coaches I've been around. I mean, Joe does such a good job of asking the right questions when we're going through stuff, and then bringing good ideas in front of the group. I mean, this is a match made in heaven, I think. So like, I'm excited to be around. It's been really fun the last few months.
Patrick.
Yep.
We got time for 2 more. College and pro. You mentioned the energy that you got from Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about the intensity or the discipline of TJ. When you've gone through these short meetings with the players, has there been one guy that you just didn't expect to kind of maybe not blow you away, but you're like walked away like, man, I'm impressed with this kid, the man?
Brandon's impressive. I mean, I mess with Brandon already. I mean, I don't even know if I've expressed that to him, but in the meeting room, I lock eyes with him a lot of times, and him, Deshaun. I meant not to single anybody out, but like I would say, I'm gonna say I'm real impressed with him and how he goes about his business, and I like his energy in the meeting room. It's been fun talking football with him, asking him questions in front of the group. That's been really cool.
Patrick, we kind of hear free and strong safety utilized a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, we didn't hear maybe left or right safety with
Mm-hmm.
two high stuff, and then last year you saw the swing back to more single high stuff. How has the evolution of the safety position kind of changed with the schematics, and is it more left right now? Is it more free strong? How do those kind of interchange? Can most guys play both, or is it still more specialized like it was back then?
I would say if you're trying to anticipate what's going to be coming up the next year, this is an exercise of a total. You got to look at the top 5 to 10 defenses, top 5 to 10 offenses. Again, you probably heard it in every press conference in here before. It's a copycat league. The trend goes based on what did everybody do well last year. What did everybody do well last year? So you look at Seattle right now. They had 2 corners back there that are playing safety. I had Jay Love at the Giants. So the split safety look, whether it's right and left, and then based on how your roster is, you got to do what's best for the team and for the group, for the scheme. If the quarterback doesn't know what his role is, it makes it harder on the quarterback. And then when you deploy him from split safety, you're able to hold it. And again, that usually you're able to do that if you're good up front. And so that's probably where everything going to go, I would think, or try to go. But not every roster is built the same. So, okay, I could try to play split safety like this if that's what we wanted to do. But like if I got a guy that plays down all the time, I have to do what's best for the guys. It's unfair, in my opinion, not to play to the roster. That's why you hear the press conference I've ever done. There's no Pat Graham playbook. The playbook evolves once I get around the guys. So we had first 2 weeks. I'm meeting them. All right, we're building it up. We know what the roster configuration is going to be like, a 3-4 roster configuration. There's going to be sprinkles of that, sprinkles of 4 down. But the playbook evolves based on me getting to know the players. I have my principles, I have the things that I want to do, but to truly get a grasp of the scheme, it evolves as we go along, figuring out these players and what they do best.
Chris Carter, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. What are the biggest things you take away from your bounce around, AFC East, the Lions, as far as what you want to bring to the table as a special team?
Well, I think the first thing is that every team I've been with, the identity of that team ends up playing to the division. Because the ultimate goal is you want to win. Easiest way to win and get into playoffs is win the division. So, when I've been in some of those, the NFC South and, in Carolina, in Miami, speed, athleticism, that was the way the game was played. Detroit in the North, Buffalo, because of the city and playing in the elements, the team was built more to play in that type of situation. So the good thing is about this team, one thing you're not going to have to bring is the element of toughness. I mean, the element of toughness has been the Pittsburgh Steelers since I was a kid. So, and that's the starting point to playing good football, and especially to be able to get where we really want to get to, which is winning games and getting to the playoffs, and then ultimately, put the 7th up there on that second floor that I get to walk by every day. So, toughness, discipline, smart football is what we're going to try and play in the kicking game.
Danny, Jeff Hathorn, KDK Radio 93.7 fan, welcome.
Thank you.
Have you talked to, I know personnel changes, have you talked to Skoranek or a couple of the guys that have been around for a couple of years?
Yeah, we've been in meetings, obviously, here in Phase 1, so we've had the players, for the last couple of weeks, and, there's a lot of outstanding young men that, who have had success, and then there is, in my opinion, there's a lot of good young men that, there's going to be nothing ahead but great opportunities for them to be successful. So, the one good thing about a clean slate for both as a coach and as a player, there's no roles have been defined for anybody. Those guys are going to determine and they're going to identify and they're going to show us what their roles are going to be. And then, my philosophy is to everything is, once you establish your role, excel in that role until it changes. I've had guys that have been 2-phase players in week 1, they're 4-phase players in week 6, and by week 12, I don't get them because they're playing 65 plays on offense or defense. So, those roles change, but whatever your role is daily or weekly, excel in that role and don't worry about the rest of it. So I don't worry about the past, I'm worried about the present. So getting better every day with every single guy we have, I don't care who it is, whoever Mike and Omar and the organization puts in my room, we're going to coach the daylights out of them and try and get them better.
Danny, Tim Benz from Trib Live. I guess from an organizational aspect, whether it's Andy, Omar, like the staff, how much information have they sought from you, opinions have they sought from you about the special teams aspects of players going into the draft? How much have you given? And specifically, I guess I'm asking about return qualities for potential wide receivers.
Yeah. Well, we've been in draft meetings for the last couple of weeks. We talk about a lot of players. I give input on every guy that I've looked at, and it's a lot of guys. But at the end of the day, I give information, I give opinions. Omar, Mike, and the rest of the organization, they'll make those decisions. And I've always said I'll be happy with whoever they give us, and we're going to coach whoever they give us. But there are some guys, return guys in the draft that I think have some upside. So we'll see what happens here in a week.
Danny, Nick Faribault, Ben Live. Obviously, you guys go out and sign Cam at punter. How do you kind of view him and specifically potentially setting up a battle there if you want to add that?
I think everything's a battle. We haven't been on the grass for one thing yet. We obviously haven't put the pads on. We haven't played a preseason game. We haven't played a game. So, that evaluation process to everything, every position, I think is going to be an ongoing thing. Just like, talent acquisition. We got the team, then you have free agency, then you'll have the draft. Then there's always trades. There's cut down at the end of training camp. So there's, everything's a constant flow of adding, subtracting. Sometimes it's by choice. Other times it's, you have injuries. So I always do everything with an open mind. We've had guys that show up on Tuesday or Wednesday and they're playing 30 plays for me on Sunday. So, every day we're just trying to get everybody that we have better.
Danny Breinbacker from the Post-Gazette. I know you were with Miami in 24. I was just curious, what did you do last season? What did you, were you kind of watching from afar? Were you studying from
Yeah.
afar. Can you take us into what your process was?
You know what? It was a great learning where you're not squeezed on the element of having a game on Sunday at 1:02 the following week, where you're able to spend a lot more time looking around of what's happening around the league. You're allowed to look around and see what's happening in college football. And then I was fortunate enough, I know a lot of people outside of football that have been successful, whether it be in other sports or business, to be able to spend time with those people to find out, how they motivate groups, how they motivate their hierarchy, their upper level management, the day-to-day workers. So being able to spend time and look at how to get everybody better from a communication standpoint, from a ability for me to maybe be a better listener. So all those things, it was a good year to enjoy it. I found out for sure that, I missed the day in and day out of football, and especially being able to be on the grass.
Mike just called and said, hey, you want to get back in?
Yeah, so it was, I talked to a couple people, and if I was interested in some things, and when I realized I said absolutely, and, to be honest, and let's not get it twisted, the opportunity, the Pittsburgh Steelers is an iconic franchise. I've spent 4 fabulous years at the University of Pittsburgh. It's a wonderful city. I love it. I've had great experiences at the other 4 teams I've been at in my 24 years in this league, but make no mistake about it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike McCarthy, who's, a Super Bowl winning head coach and offensive play caller, Pat Graham, who I've worked with as the special teams coordinator, with him being the defensive coordinator, all those things came together, and, it was one of those things, it went from, interested to, I have to get this. This is too good of an opportunity to not have this.
That year of stepping back and doing things, how did that also impact your view as far as maybe strategies around the new changes with all the rules that are changing in special teams, as far as developing plans that might give you a unique perspective how to attack them?
Well, it's funny because, and they've just tweaked it again. In 24 we changed the rule, and then, 25 they tweaked it again. Now they tweaked it again. So it's, that evolution of when you start to look at, is the change a positive in terms of that's a good thing? How many people are using that change? Were they able to have going from 2 players in what we refer to as that flex position to then you're able to have 3? And it was interesting how many teams didn't use that rule and didn't use that advantage, or they viewed it as a disadvantage. So, it was good. And to be able to watch every single game, every single week, both from a talent evaluation and looking at players. So, when free agency came around, you had a better idea what was happening. But then from a schematic standpoint, it was fabulous. It was something that people had told me, if you ever get an opportunity, take a year away. And for me, both my kids it was going to be the last year both my kids were in school, and it was going to be an opportunity to do some of those things that my wife got to do and always talked about, and I was always missing out on. So it was good, but don't make a mistake. I'm glad to be back doing this instead.
Danny, Mike Pursuta from DVE. What do you like about Pittsburgh other than the Steelers' history and all that?
You name it. The people, the neighborhoods, the passion. I mean, walk down the street on Saturday, tomorrow, with the Buccos playing, with the Penguins in the playoffs. I mean, you're going to see a lot of gold and black and a lot of excitement buzz in this city, and that doesn't happen everywhere. The passion that the fans have, it's a special place, in my opinion.
Danny, Chris Adamski from the Tribune Review. Your predecessor was here over a decade. I knew special teams coordinators was kind of fraternity. How well do you know Danny, and do you have any styles from him or learn anything over the years or anything?
Know Danny well. Followed Danny a million years ago. He had coached at Georgia Tech at one point when he was coaching college football, and I eventually got to Georgia Tech, and there were some guys on staff, the head coach and one of the coordinators who had worked with Danny. So I've known Danny forever. I think Danny's a fabulous guy and a good football coach. I followed when I first got my first opportunity as a coordinator in this league. I followed a gentleman by the name of Scott O'Brien with the Carolina Panthers, who, in my opinion, maybe the best special teams coach who's ever coached in this league. Had done it for a long time. I went to Miami, replaced Darren Rizzi, a guy that had been there for 10, 11 years. So following guys that had
have had a lot of success in places that they've been, and nothing new. You know, our goal is just everything that's been positive, we're going to try and build on it.
Danny, was Scott O'Brien your coach at Pitt, your special teams coach, and what was your experience and maybe some highlights of your special teams play?
Yeah, he was the special teams coordinator. You know, so when I went to Carolina, Scott was the special teams coordinator. John Fox, who was the secondary coach when I played at Pitt, was the head coach. So getting reconnected with some people that you know, that I grew up with. You know, special teams has always been, you know, a big part of my life, both as a player and then obviously as a coach. You know, I started off as a Division III football coach where there was basically 3 of us, and you had to do everything. So it's something I fell in love with. I loved it as a player and loved it as a coach. I get to put my hands on every single guy on the team, you know, besides the head coach. You know, I'm really the only guy that gets to do that, and that's what I love about it. You know, I get to know every single player on the team, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, doesn't matter your position. You're going to do something and have some kind of role with me, and I love that aspect of it.
You were a core teamer at Pitt?
Yes, sir.
Danny, when you
Tuner,
look
guys.
at, when you look at returner now with the new kickoff rules, how has the maybe skill set of a returner changed? Is it just speed and elusiveness, maybe like it was in the past, or how much does vision play into it now? It's almost like a kind of big moving run play.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. You know, conceptually, we're always going to do, and it's not just kickoff return. Everything we do, it's all going to be about the players. You know, I'm not going to try and jam anything. We're going to give players information. We're going to give. Some guys are going to use part of it. Some guys are going to use all of it. You know, return guys, I'm not going to ask them to do, if they're a better inside return player, I'm not going to ask them to run outside return stuff. So, you know, the skill set is, at the end of the day, you have to be able to make good decisions, and you have to be able to run fearless, because things that you may think are not there, by the time you get there, they may be there. So the guys that are able to be catch, run, cut, in that sequence, you see too many guys are catch, and they're cutting on air before they have to. So there's a little bit of fearlessness to it, and they're the guys that are successful.
Danny, Kevin Cameron, Pittsburgh DSEN Radio. What do you think about Chris Boswell? At one time, Mike Tomlin called him a serial killer.
I don't know anything about that, and I'm not going to comment on that. I think he's been an outstanding kicker in this league for a long time, and anxious to work with him.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.